All right, hey guys, welcome to the second episode of the Deck Talks. Today, we're lucky to have Coach John Kochmansky, Stroudsburg University. Just a quick background. Once again, very successful coach. He's heading into his 14th season with the Warriors. Overall, he's got a 354 win, 244 and 4 record over 13 seasons. 2013 PSAC championship was the first one since 1971. 2015 PSAC runner-up, 3 NCAA tournament appearances, placed third in the Atlantic region 2011. 7 PSAC tournament appearances, 4th in PSAC wins, 309 since 2008. This is what Jake likes. 2nd in batting average, 315 on base percentage, runs per game, 3rd in stolen bases, so definitely an offensive powerhouse, I'd say. But also 2nd in strikeouts per innings and 5th in ERA from 2008 to 2017. Another stat I saw, ESU's posted 5 30-win seasons in 13 years. And have set the school record for wins 3 times. So I could go on and on with the
please don't.
But so Coach, thanks for joining us today. And I think what we like to start with is just we got Jake Carr here. Almost skipped you with U Science's hitting coach, who I know you guys go way back, but I would say just a brief intro and your background. I always like to hear how you got to where you are.
Sure. Yeah, I appreciate the intro, and as we certainly are known as an offensive team, but I talk about our pitching staff and our defense. If you actually look at the numbers, yes, we're known with our competitors as that offensive team, but we can certainly pitch it, and and we play really good. Well, we play really good defense also. So, we're kind of the we'd like to think we're the whole package. So, but yeah, I certainly appreciate the beginning and the opportunity to be here. And Coach Carr, thanks for setting this thing up. Good stuff. So, well, I guess to be very brief with a background, I started my coaching career. I was fortunate to start my coaching career at Virginia Tech with a Hall of Fame, college baseball Hall of Fame coach, Chuck Hartman, who unfortunately recently died. He died last month, but he taught a lot of different things. I think a lot of things that made sense to me and certain things that didn't. And that's part of coaching. As you get older, you grab the things that work for you and then kind of leave the things that don't. But from Virginia Tech, kind of moved back to Pennsylvania area and got a job at coaching the hitting instructor and a recruiting coordinator at Lafayette for a year. And I was kind of in flux. And then after that, I did that for a year and then went and got a teaching job and coached some high school baseball. And, then ended up as an assistant coach at ESU for 2 years. Left there, went to Lehigh as their hitting instructor and recruiting coordinator. And then was hired back as the head coach at East Stroudsburg. So, I certainly, like most of these guys and like Coach Carr can attest to, I paid my dues and coached and worked and, cut grass and did what I had to do. But, so for all you guys that are out there doing that, there's at some point, if you can hang in there, your break will come. So you'll get an opportunity.
Grind never ends, I guess.
No doubt. No doubt.
In the coaching, that's for sure. I guess one thing, obviously from coaching myself, I'm always interested in guys like yourself who have a winning program, and basically I would think it goes back to culture at some point, and that's hard to create, I think, and just some insight on how you've been able to not just have a couple good recruiting classes with the winning seasons, right, and then well as the talent, and I got lucky with guys that it seems like it's the culture you've created that is there. And I would guess that kind of goes hand in hand. Once you establish it, you draw guys, but how did you create that and how do you keep it?
Well, I think number one, you need, the most important thing is just surround yourself with real quality coaches. I think that's the start. And when you're able to do that, and oftentimes in this business, there's so many really good coaches that are out there, but the money's not there for them. And there's a lot of turnover, and especially at the Division II level. But certainly that's a start. But I think overall it's setting an example. I think that's first and foremost. Our guys will tell you I'm the first one at the field, the last one to leave. Our practices are organized. If there's trash to be picked up, well, we all pick it up, including the coaching staff. And so, that part is, that's the beginning of it. And then, of course, then it comes down to what you were saying before. You're out there with your hard work, and you end up with, some quality players. And, in baseball, it comes down to players. I mean, it's not no one's calling plays, and it's not like football and basketball where you're doing different things and different setups. Everybody's in the same spot. But from a culture standpoint, it really is setting I really believe it's setting example, setting your expectations, holding people accountable. And, and something that we've, Jake, I've learned in my years, since the time that you were here, we've become so much more positive in this program, and everything, we look at the positive of what comes out. And if something negative happens and there's some adversity, we try to find the positive in that. And then we use it as a learning experience, and then we move. And the other piece that I think is critical in a winning culture is, we're not in an era of an athlete where it's my way or the highway, or attacking, yell, that kind of thing. It's I don't want to call it nurturing, but it leans more towards that side of it. And in our practice sessions, we're providing opportunities, we're providing the knowledge, we're giving the reps, we're doing all of those things. But again, with that positive environment and allowing the student athlete to be who they are and not creating clones. And, and then eventually, you created a situation where people want to come to your institution, and then it certainly becomes much easier.
That's good. A lot of good points there. Definitely. I guess playing off that, when it comes to recruiting, are there certain characteristics, aside from the physical tools, that you look for that you can tell will fit that culture?
Yeah. Number one, not to make it a cliche or coach speak, but we got to have people that can handle the academic situation first, and it's not just the stay eligible aspect of it, and when in the beginning you're reading all through those things that we've done here, and our graduation rate is very high, and we're certainly proud of that. And we've got so many success stories that have come out of here where a student athlete will come here with baseball, and they probably wouldn't have gone to college without baseball, and then they leave here with a degree, and they're really successful in their lives. So that's a big piece of it. But from the recruiting aspect, I'm sure we'll get to this. We talk about a philosophy, but that's, you have a philosophy, and you want to recruit guys that you think can be successful in the way you play the game. There's with all the technology and all this and that, it often comes down to, when you go and you're watching, does the ball come off the bat, and does the ball come out of the hand? And oftentimes that's your first look. And if I see that, well, then that's going to draw me to pay a little bit more attention. In the era of technology, and certainly we use it here, We use it, a lot, and we have a lot. We're fortunate that we have those resources. But oftentimes in that regard, it comes down to that aspect of it. And, and then in the recruiting process, when you get them on campus, as much as, the student athlete is checking out your place and looking at you and parents are evaluating, well, I'm doing the same thing. And character is a big piece here. You're looking for that as much as you can. And, as you're walking around, I ask a lot of questions on visits, and if the parents are the ones that are doing most of the talking, that can often lead to some red flag situations. And so it's certainly in recruiting, there's, like anything else, there's no substitute for experience. But again, you have to have good assistance. You have to have your philosophy and what you're looking for, and then you have to trust what you're doing.
I think that's pretty interesting, especially when, the recruiting is probably the hardest part of what we do is, there's no certainty in it. And I think that's kind of one thing that you guys have I don't know about the magic recipe to figuring out, but, you guys have had a lot of success with bringing in, really talented kids. I remember playing you guys last year and just kind of sitting there like, whew, there's a lot of talent out on this field right now.
Well, we got out there and you beat down some bushes, but, the other part about recruiting is, developing a niche and sticking to that. If you're trying to go all over, like, for example, we rarely go, west of, say, like Harrisburg in Pennsylvania. You have all those PSAC schools that someone can go to. And so unless you're a legacy or you have some type of connection to ESU, it doesn't really make sense. And if you look at our roster, we are littered with local guys. And what I considered local and what we consider local here is like from Scranton and kind of the umbrella branches out into that Hazleton area, and then certainly down into that Lehigh Valley, kind of Emmaus. We'll get into a little bit of Jersey. But overall, we made an assessment that we felt that if we could recruit the top local guys, and then fill in and really pound the Lehigh Valley and Scranton, and then we get into Southern Chester County, and we get into Delaware County, we get into Philly a little bit. We've had some success with some Hatboro Horsham guys. That's Jake, you bring up that part of it. We eliminate a lot of guys just based on what we know we can get closer, as opposed to throwing that real wide net.
I think that's
I was gonna say that's something. I'm always interested in how I played Division III baseball, and I played at the lowest professional level possible, but I saw plenty of guys. I played in the Dixie Conference back then with Ferrum, Methodist, Averett, NC Wesley. Back when I played, it was super competitive and not a lot of nationally ranked teams. Plenty of guys got drafted, and I think you guys probably always battle that obsession with D1, which to me is those guys are going to go there. Those top, and you're going to get too many guys, I think, that go there and don't succeed and miss a good opportunity to develop at a Division II or Division III school with great coaching. It's still competitive. And so I thought that's an interesting point, that you've kind of let the area like win your backyard almost, which in any business I think that's what you should always be trying to do. Is if you can win your backyard, then you have a steady pipeline. Then you don't have to worry about competing with, the travel and, the budgets. And I saw, we were selling Christmas trees in the wintertime and doing whatever, if we wanted a tarp on the field, we had to go fundraising, and but it's just as good of an experience, I think, with a good coach and a good program. So I was curious to, with the recruiting.
Well, it's like anything, we'll bring guys in, we call, sometimes we'll reach, for players who we know are going to probably be above, but I'm not a guy that would evaluate someone and say, you know what, you could never play here. I don't know that. We're not a program that over recruits. So we base everything off of, what our needs are. So when it comes to a situation like that, there are times when we may not recruit a guy knowing that we may have to play against him, or he may end up at a Division I. But if it doesn't fit a need for our program, then you're doing a disservice. And you go back to what the culture, our players know that we don't over recruit, but they also know that the guys we bring in, if they're better than them, then they're going to play. I don't care what grade you're in. If you earn it, there was one guy in my 14 years that I said will start as a freshman, and that was Brian Ernst. And he's the only guy in PSAC history to strike out 200 guys and have 200 hits. So, and everybody else comes here under the, hey, you know what? If you earn your spot, you earn your innings, you come here, you have your roster spot, and that won't be taken from you. But from the aspect of, how many innings you play or where you pitch, whether you're a starter, reliever, mid, closer, that's on your performance and your hard work. So, and that's part of the culture, and that's why we don't have got a lot of guys transferring out of here. And I truly believe that it is part of that culture that we don't over recruit, and you have to earn your innings.
Yeah, I can attest Brian was an unbelievable player. Especially on both ends. He was definitely a special kid. But I think especially with where we're at, Coach, it's interesting to hear you say that. Considering we're at the beginning of trying to build a program that's not been historically good. I think listening to you talk about the recruiting side of it, and making sure your guys know, you're expected to come in, and you'll keep your roster spot. But on the same end, if a kid comes in behind you, plays better than you, you're gonna lose your job. Sure. I think that's something that we've kind of had to deal with here the last couple of years. With there was kids who were in the program before we got there. Then the last 2 years we brought in recruiting classes, and you've seen kind of the battle. And it's kind of interesting to see the way kids handle, I guess, necessarily having someone behind them pushing them,
sure.
Especially when they haven't had that before. And especially for coming from the coaches, it's, how exactly do we attack dealing with that when they haven't had to worry about in their 3 years or 4 years here about someone coming in and taking their job.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm curious too. I think you were saying it nicely, Coach, that things have changed where it's more of a nurturing environment versus, yelling at you. I played back when it was a little more of the yelling at you.
Sure.
So I
comment on is, we provide, with that competition, that also, that makes people mentally tough, and they're so every day in practice, they're competing. And so with that competition, you're not just building depth. And I'm one of those coaches that I play a lot of guys. I'll, if we come out of the fall and you're a guy that should, split games or get half the innings or, that we certainly do that. Guys come here to play, and if they're ready to play and there's someone that's even with them, then they'll get their opportunity to play. But that competition in practice, that breeds that mental toughness, and that gets guys ready. And, from the aspect of, that super intensity, that aspect of it, my younger years as a coach, I tended to lean towards that and have kind of morphed into completely the other way. That doesn't mean I'm less competitive and don't want to win. So, I think there's also a piece to this, that aspect of it, that saying somebody might be soft and may not really care whether they win or lose, that could, sometimes that's misinterpreted. Players can internalize, but with us providing the competition in practice, that's providing the mental toughness and getting guys ready to play. And, you look at our conference, and, I was going over some notes, and in the last 10 years, there's only been one repeat champion, and that's Seton Hill out of the West. The East has won the tournament 6 to the 10, and if I went back, it would even itself out. And in the East, in those 10 years, there's only been one team, and that's Westchester in 2012 and 2016 that won it twice. So to sit here and say, there's a lot of teams with a lot of success in our league. but you can go back 10 years and they haven't won the conference. That's how difficult it is to win the conference. You know, we've been fortunate enough to win it once. Millersville once, you know, Bloomsburg broke through and they won it in 2019, right? So, you know, to win our conference is so difficult. And that mental toughness, that ability to play under pressure. So, you know, we don't set our practice plans to be super intense, but with the type of talent and the depth that you create, that gets guys ready, and that makes them handle that. And if we're facing our pitching staff now in a scrimmage or even just a BP session, and if we can hit them, well, I think we're going to be okay. You know, as we move forward. I couldn't say that, you know, 12, 14 years ago, you know, and so, you know, our pitchers get our hitters ready, our hitters get our pitchers ready. And so, you know, we've been able to create that aspect of it. So that intensity doesn't have to come from the coaches. It's more or less, I'm spending more time trying to make sure guys are calmed down so they can have their quality at bats, as opposed to, you know, that intensity side.
I was just going to say it sounds like it's not that you're taking the intensity away, you're putting the responsibility on the players to create it themselves, which I think probably goes back to that culture of the accountability.
Sure, 100%. I can give you an example. That last fall, we're in a scrimmage against a Division I team, and we have a pretty talented freshman who's starting out there, and first fly ball in the first inning with 2 outs, and he ticks it, you know, and you know, and he's going to be is a fantastic player. And our 2 corner outfielders go in, you know, hey, don't worry about it. Hey, you're fine. He ends up having a good day where it could have just turned into a disaster. So, you know, that's where the aspect of the, you know, if the older guys can understand what you're doing and help your younger guys, then it certainly makes, you know, our job as a coach and a coaching staff and a head coach so much easier.
Would the younger you have chewed them out?
No, not in that aspect. Not on just a tick. Now, if he was lined up in the wrong spot, maybe, but not just not a physical mistake. No.
Well, I know Jake's favorite part. I'll let you guys kind of dive into the nitty gritty with obviously the offensive side, and like I said, from a, you know, business perspective, we're trying to implement the tech too, and it's right. You know, there's a lot out there. It can be overwhelming at first. I know I battle it with. I didn't grow up with that stuff, so I'm probably more old school, where I just like what I see and some drills and stuff, but it's the way of the world. So I know it's definitely can be helpful. It's a little overwhelming, but I guess maybe start with some insight on what you guys are using, how you use it for developing your guys.
Right. Well, the beauty of it, I can hire young guys. All right. So here I am, you know, we go from no technology, you bring in the young guys, and they're, you know, so, you know, again, that's you bring in quality assistant coaches who can bring something to the table. The last thing I want is a yes man. You know, certainly I'm going to make the final decision, but I want to hear what you have to say in regards to that. And then one day I may say, hey, let's give it a shot. And other days, nope. But once we leave and walk out the office, you know, we're all on the same page. But, you know, from the technology side of things, I think sometimes at our level, it can get overwhelming. You know, we don't, you know, we have the offensive Rapsodo. We have the pitching Rapsodo that we use, and we collect data. We actually have a pitching lab that we've coordinated with our exercise science department. We got $1.2 million of Vicom cameras, and we're analyzing the kinetic chain and with all of our hitters or with all of our pitchers in regards to that, and that'll certainly leak into the offensive side of things. You know, but you know, when you're out there recruiting, you don't necessarily have all that, and exit speed and launch angle and all those things are all great, but you have to be able to play the game. And the first thing I do out in recruiting is when I'm looking at a guy, I want to see if they can play defense. And I think that's the piece that sometimes gets lost with our program because of our reputation. But if you're not a good defender, we don't have the resources, the roster spots to recruit DHs. So, I'm certainly looking for middle guys who can pick it first, and we just happen to go and see enough of them and find guys that can also swing the bat. And we have our speed guys, and we've got our guys that are, I don't care how fast they run as long as they hit doubles. And, it comes down for us. I truly believe, and we can look at numbers, but if we can out extra base hit you in a game, we're probably going to win the game. And, our philosophy on offense, if we score 5 or 6 runs in a game, we should win the game if we look at from the pitching side of things. But no, we use every one of our BP sessions on the field. We have the offensive Rapsodo set up. We're analyzing, if we see exit speed, going down on a hitter and we get that instant feedback, he's probably out in front, he's leaking forward. The misconception is if you pull a ball, it's going to come off harder than if you sit back and go the other way. And we haven't found that to be necessarily true. There's not a significant difference. What it does show that if you go the other way and you have a significant decrease in your, in the exit speed, that means you didn't square it up or your timing's off and you're out in front on your front foot. So you certainly can get overwhelmed with all of the technology, and again, at our level, our full season is 50 games. The most we play one team, in conference, we play 4, and starting next year, we're back to 4 this year. Next year, it'll be back to 3 in a series. So we really don't have, all the information that we need to use all the technology. Our sample size is relatively small. So, we focus on our hitters' strengths. We focus on our strengths, and we certainly, we work towards those to get better in that regard, as opposed to worrying about a lot of, certainly our opponents. And then, we take from the technological side, we do a lot of video, which nowadays isn't really technology, but, you say you look at it and you old school, you look at a couple things, and these guys are so strong nowadays that you can't see. They're so strong and so quick. If you're only seeing the stuff that with the naked eye, he might have been a guy you might not have should have been recruiting, because that's just a major flaw. But that little tweak and everything, it's slowing that stuff down and frame by frame, and then using the other stuff like launch angle, and believe me, I'm not a big launch angle guy because everybody has one. Although all those launch angle coaches out there may not agree with me, but that aspect of it, I think, again, can get overcoached, and comes down to squaring the ball up and having people natural and quick as can be.
Now, Coach, is there something in particular, I guess, you're looking for them to do in their swing in a, not like getting too deep into the swing itself, but is there anything like on the outskirts that, maybe a parent who has a 12-year-old kid,
Yeah.
Kid who could help with them on that?
Right. Yeah. I think you want your swing to be as natural as it can be. And I always use the analogy of when you see someone who, a young 3-year-old, and he grabs that big bam bam bat and he takes that swing and he's straight across and he's slightly up, and now his arms are straight locked out, so it's not perfectly right, but that's what you're after, as opposed to then everything else. But there is certainly, I try to simplify things, and there are 3 things that we believe in here, that I allow everyone to be who they are and have their own style. All right. And what that means is, I don't care if you start open. I don't care if you start closed. That to me doesn't matter. Your hands up, your hands down. That's your style. But once you stride and trigger, make that first move, and then that front foot hits the ground, then that's when you need to make those adjustments that get you better to the next, and make you successful at the next level. And the first thing is you got to get the front foot down to the point where, I think a lot of people believe that there's big importance in that stride, and there's not. I mean, there's guys that are in the Hall of Fame that never took a stride. And, it's a timing thing. It's a timing mechanism, and that's all it is. And when you got guys throwing hard, you got to get that front foot down. And so, whether it's straight up and down from the timing mechanism, not taking one at all, or starting, starting open and pulling that thing until you get parallel, I think that's first and foremost. You got to get the front foot down. Second thing is you start your swing with the bottom half. And third, you got to stay short. And we use the term here, hit across your chest. All right. That's kind of it gives you it's a verbal, but it also gives you a visual of where you want your hands. All right. And we try to start our guys with their hands as close to their chin as they can, in close to their core. And that way they come back and they hit across their chest. And those are the three things that I look for. And everything else is about your own style. And I think that's part of where our success is too. We're able to take guys' style and fit it into those three things, and we don't overcomplicate it, right? Because in this game, it comes down to, Coach Carr, repetition, repetition, repetition. And if I expect our guys to score 6 runs a game and to hit, 315, and last year when we ended the year, we were hitting 340, those types and put up those type of numbers, well, we have to hit every day. All right. And so we do that. We put that into our practice plan. And, and I'm not a guy that is, we fix our mechanics without a baseball. If there's mechanical fixes that need to be done, anytime someone's throwing a baseball, it's my belief that they need to concentrate on the baseball. If they're concentrating on their mechanics, perfect. If we're playing someone and I hear coming out of the dugout, hey, you're pulling your head or your front shoulder, you're getting 90 miles an hour right on your hands because you have no shot, right? So if we're fixing mechanics, we're doing that without a baseball, when you can focus on the one thing that you're trying to fix. Okay. So, we certainly do a lot of things offensively. Contrary to belief, we will bunt if we have to help us win a game. We don't do it often, but we will. We certainly steal, close to 100 bases, a season. But again, we do all aspects. And, I was out recruiting, and I think that might have been the best compliment our program ever got is one of our PSAC coaches in our competition said that preparing for us is we're the hardest team to prepare for, because we may not be the best at maybe batting average, or we may not have but but if you take the whole package, the way we run the bases, the way we do, and we work counts, we're aggressive at times, for him, we're the most difficult team to prepare for. So, there's certainly the numbers are there to, but that's fine. But there's a lot of things behind the scenes that people don't know about our program that really make us and has helped us be successful.
I think from just playing you guys last year in the doubleheader we played, I think you guys were the most dynamic and electric offense that I'd seen through the 17 games last year. I mean, it was one of those things where it was just kind of like, shoot, what are they going to do next?
Well, you caught us on a day where, I don't really care much about weather, but I care about wind, because we elevate the ball. And if the wind's blowing in, it's really hard to score. And you caught us on a day where there was no wind at all. And, your starter threw pretty well, and we kind of wore him out a little bit from a pitch count standpoint. And then, when you went to your bullpen, it kind of got away. But, that team last year certainly was dynamic, but they were also older. That team, if I look, there's guys on that team that came in and beat guys out, and they started as freshmen. The Kaufman kid, the Rojas. I can go through. We were we're physical. You got Carson Freeman. You got so we had some certainly talented guys, but guys that had a lot of innings under their belt. And, in our game today, with how physical it is, it's tough to win young. And, when I've had this belief for years, you can win young on the mound, but if you're young and you're playing 5, 6 freshmen, you're going to ride the roller coaster for a while. You might be really good one day, but there's going to be other days where you're not so good. It's, that team was certainly dynamic, but it was also a team that the year before, I thought won more games than we were going. They won 30. We had 31 wins, and that team overachieved, but kind of propelled us into that season. And, hopefully we get an opportunity to a lot of those guys are back. A lot of the guys that were going to graduate because of the NCAA rules have come back, and it'll be tough to duplicate, but we're going to give it a shot.
Yeah, I think that was kind of interesting. I know we talked about it when we were up at your guys' place, and then again when I saw you on the road this summer. We were kind of in the same spot, from a lineup perspective, and I guess really on the mound that you were kind of talking about is, we had 6 or 7 freshmen, I think, in the lineup when we played you guys.
Yeah.
We had 2 freshmen hitting 3 and 4, and the one kid who is a very talented kid. I think he had one of his worst days of his college baseball career.
Right.
Because he couldn't get the
Well,
down.
also, as I reminded you in that doubleheader, you guys didn't see a pitch under 87 miles an hour. So that's a little, and that was just, trying to, when you were talking about some of your guys struggled, well, they were young, and as they play and they move on, they'll handle that way better as you move forward. And it took a long time for us to get to where we are right now, and especially on the mound. And, we've got our turf field now, and that's played a huge part in our recent recruiting and things of that nature. So, there's a lot of pieces that have come together for us from an administrative standpoint and the support. So our alums are phenomenal, which shows that, to us that they had a good experience because they keep coming back. And, we had our golf tournament, and, all these alums coming back, taking off from work and to enjoy the day, to play golf and raise some money for us. And so, it's certainly been taking us all the way back to the beginning. It's certainly a culture here, and it stretches all the way through our alumni base.
I think that's, I know specifically one of the reasons why, I wanted to get you on here is because, I had a good experience. We've had good conversations throughout the years, and, I think you're one of the best in the state. Me and John were talking about it. Obviously there's some good coaches in general in the PSAC because everybody wins a lot of games, but I think, there's a couple of you guys who really, have kind of, I don't know if you want to say figured out the recipe, because obviously I don't think we ever figure that out, but I've kind of figured out some of the ingredients to kind of really turn in a place into a powerhouse that, like I said, that was probably one of the more impressive Division II teams that I had seen from a coaching we're playing against perspective last year. And we didn't even.
I certainly appreciate it. So as I said in the beginning, before we came on air, I'm going to work for you someday. So when you get your job, you come looking for me. All right. But
here's my hitting guy after these last couple of years.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, I'll be glad to.
But no, I think it's all. I think it's kind of pretty cool to hear you talk about how you guys can steal bases, as well as hit for average end power. I think in just going off of the doubleheader, obviously, because it's the most recent I've seen you guys play. You guys ran. You guys were tough outs on the, for our guys on the bump, as well as, the ability. You guys use the gaps better than a lot of teams. I think we've seen, and we've talked about it a couple times. It's hard to find kids these days that doubles or, in the actual gaps and not down the lines or over the poolside head of the outfield. And I'm kind of curious as to how you guys have gotten to that point where, you guys shoot the gaps so well.
Yeah. Well, it comes down to, again, practice and repetition. When we're hitting in the cage, whether it's machine, and I'm a machine guy because you can't, you can't replicate velo. All right. So, we've got the we've got the machine that also can throw the changeup. So at any time we're hitting fastballs, we have it on auto, and the changeups are coming out. All right. And our other machine is set up for breaking ball, whether it's right-handed or left-handed. And we're trying to hit the corners of the machine. All right. If a ball is way on the inside, okay, then we're going to pull that ball down the line and hit where it's pitched. And, we've had some teams in the past that if you get pull heavy in our conference, you're going to lose some games. And especially with your, 0-2 and breaking balls, you have to go the other way. And if you become pull happy, and I look at it, and it's adjustments between, game to game. If we're grounding out to shortstop, or we're flying out to left, or we're too many times in a game, then we're on that dead pull mark, and we got to make that adjustment. And you can't be consistent in our game if you're only going to use half the field. So we're preaching all the time, middle of the field. And the other thing that does is it allows your hitter to see the ball longer, and they're going to make better decisions and not swing at bad pitches, that they're letting the ball get deeper, which allows them to make better decisions. It all plays hand in hand. And for us offensively, I don't talk about batting average very often. We're on base percentage. We want to see what your on base percentage is. That's the first, when I do look at numbers, and I go and the first thing I look at in our column is the on base percentage, and I want that above the low end is 40%. If we can stay above 40%, then we're going to have a chance to be really successful with the way we play. So that's number one. And then the second thing I look for is extra base hits. And, again, I go back to, if we can extra base hit you, we're probably going to win the game. And that doesn't mean home runs. You don't have to be a home run hitting team. You play in a park that's really big, but you have to be able to hit extra base hits. And that's what we focus on. And so like we've got our 3 through 6, and that's their job. Now, a couple of those guys can run, and a couple of them can't. And those that can't, I don't care. Their job is to drive in runs and hit doubles. All right. And, we've got our rabbits to do the other thing. But overall, that's our philosophy going in. We want to make good decisions at the plate, meaning keep guys in the zone, don't chase. And that's the other part about being young, Coach. When you're young, you chase. When you're older, you don't. And, it certainly gives you a better opportunity to get that arm that's, that starter out of the game sooner by just making them throw more pitches, but you're also being aggressive. It's not like you're not chasing. And that's a key part to what we do. And that's something else that we practice all the time. We practice not chasing.
Is that off the machine that you guys do that?
Sometimes it's harder off the machine because you're moving the machine around, but you do that with, when you're seeing an arm. As much as I love the machine, the players hate it. So we got to show them an arm once in a while. I got to keep them happy. All right. They're going to play offense and do everything that way. I got to show them an arm every once in a while in practice.
You're going to feel good day.
That's another reason why I hire the young guys. They can throw BP every day.
Right. I need right now. That's more young guys to throw. That's a good joke. I forget the coach. He said when he interviewed for assistant coaches, he only had 2 requirements: that you could throw batting practice and you had a truck.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, Coach Brown can do both. He's got a truck and he can throw BP every day. So we hit that mark on that.
There you go.
Nailed that one.
I have one quick question, not to go too long with you, but I loved what you said, those 3 things with the hitting, with getting the foot down, I think working across your chest and staying short. I was a leadoff guy, so that's kind of music to my ears in this day and age. Preaching that, I guess 2 questions. One, how do you look at still elevating while staying short? I mean, I know I look at that from the lower half is where you do that, but and then also, I know some guys fight the foot down, especially the younger guys.
Mm-hmm.
Just an example without, needing to demonstrate too much, your go-to maybe drill for timing. because I feel like that's one, as an instructor, my timing's off is one of the harder,
Right.
Issues to approach in drills sometimes.
Right. Well, looking at it from a drill perspective with that, and talking about if guys are struggling with that front foot, all right, we get them spread out. All right. And they don't, not so they lose their athletic ability, but get them spread out enough so that they don't have, you're eliminating movements. And, as far as, the timing aspect of it, the changing speeds and things of that nature. I'm not a big gimmick guy when it comes to hitting drills and different things. I want guys doing things that they're doing in a game. So, you're not going to see our team up on a rail holding their balance and hitting off a tee or anything like that. We have those mechanisms, and if somebody's struggling with a timing thing, and usually your timing is that front foot, well, you get them spread out, and the more movements you can eliminate, the better off you are. And as long as, and even if it's you're getting that trigger, your stride trigger, or if you're spread out and it's just lifting the front heel and that's your stride, as long as you're triggering, you're not going to lose juice. And, that's the misconception, especially with young hitters, is they need a lot of movement, and that front foot means something in their swing, and it really doesn't. It's just that timing mechanism, and it creates movement, and especially with young hitters. And now I'm talking getting down into that little league age and that middle school and high school, some high school hitters, the more movement they have, it just creates problems. So you want to kind of get them quiet and, and short, movements that are smooth. But the front foot is number one. And, that doesn't matter whether you're at the T-ball, well, not T-ball, the little league level, or, the high school level. It doesn't matter. The college level, the big leagues, you got to get the front foot down. And that's how, you can certainly you can make those adjustments, from that perspective.
That's what happens first. To me, that's wrong or not done.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned something regarding launch angle. I'm not a guy that preaches launch angle, because I know we measure it, and I know everyone has it, and everyone has certainly different launch angles. But every hitter's different also. I certainly don't want Ben Puripavel, who's one of our rabbits who leads off and can really create damage, and he's an on-base percentage guy and a high percentage stolen base guy. I don't want him with a 30% launch angle anyway. Right. I still want him elevating the ball. All right. But not like that. So I'm not we certainly measure it. Everybody has one. I did a talk in the Lehigh Valley 2 years ago, and they wanted me to come in and talk about launch angle. And, I said, I don't know if I'm the right guy. And what I did is I analyzed, going all the way back I took to Babe Ruth, and I took different power hitters, and then took a few Pete Rose, Pedroia, those guys, smaller guys, and they already have the launch angle. But the reason even Pete Rose, everyone thought he swung down. He didn't swing down. His launch angle wasn't as exaggerated as others. So that aspect of it, I don't get too much into the aspect of that. And if we use more of a ball concentration deal with that, since you already have launch angle, and we're looking not to hit the top of the ball. So that's the aspect. We spend more time on ball concentration as opposed to mechanics when we're getting ready to play. And, the technicalities of whether you're 27% versus 17%, I think at our level is overblown. That's just my personal opinion. Someone might completely disagree with me, and that's fine. That's the beauty of our game. But everyone has the launch angle, and if you're hitting the bottom third of the ball, well, you're going to get the backspin, and you're going to elevate.
So you guys concentrate a lot more on where you hit on the baseball to create that elevation more than anything else.
I guess so. Again, and not getting too technical, But we do all our mechanical work in the offseason when we get into our we're done our fall and we have that time period in between. And so we any mechanical work that we do it then. And then once we get ready to play, I'm certainly a ball concentration guy, and we're putting the ball on the outside part of the plate. We're putting it on the inside part. We're putting it in every part of the strike zone, and making sure that we're staying short on every swing, including that ball that's away. The ball that's away, the thought everyone has to reach out. You got to just let it get deeper, and understanding and working on seeing the ball coming out of the hand and recognizing it. That I get this question all the time. What's the difference between a Division I hitter and a Division II hitter? And when they both get experienced, there's not a whole lot. But in the earlier years, what you find is the more polished hitter, the guy that might be more ready for, say, Division I, although, again, all the levels are – most guys, a lot of D3 guys can play D1, so I don't get into that too much. But what they can do is they recognize better. They see the ball out of the hand, and they know if it's going to be a strike or it's going to be low and away, or it's going to be inner half, and they know when they need to start their swing, which gets into that timing aspect of it. So we're better suited as a team to get ready to play, to spend time with that once we get back in January than we are working on any mechanical stuff. And as a matter of fact, I spend little to no time on mechanics once we get back. If we have to tweak somebody, all right, we'll go over to the tee, but we need to get ready to play. Last time any games we played, nobody's put a ball on the tee. All right. You got to play, you got to, and again, if I expect our guys to play the offense that we play, well, we need repetition and we need to see velocity and we need to be able to recognize it and handle it.
Would you say more like inner squad is the most valuable?
We do like situational stuff as opposed to inner squad. But if we're hitting on the field, we hit with the machine. So we're creating the velocity. All right. So we're fortunate with our resources. We've got 2 cages and then we can hit live on the field, and somewhere in there is an arm and somewhere in there is the machine, and somewhere in there they're seeing something that's spinning or slower. Sometimes we'll just throw straight change up, and even though it's just, we'll put the machine on 70 miles an hour. All right. So, you work on different things, and, and then once the game starts, my job's over. I sit there and watch. I have no control. The game's played. I don't even coach third anymore. So I'm sitting in the dugout and I'm a cheerleader. I'm trying to be a positive guy. And because there's very few games that come down to any decision I make, and I can make the right decision. And in baseball, it doesn't work out. So, my job is preparation, and anything that occurs in a baseball game, our players have seen it before it happens in a game. And then once we start playing, our practices get shorter and we go into fix mode. If we messed up a bunt defense, all right, we'll fix that. We prepare for the next opponent. We prepare for, Millersville different than we may prepare for Shippensburg, those things, certainly, with tendencies and things. So my job is preparation, and those guys, they play the game. The players play it. I mean, that's there's, again, I say that sincerely. There's very little decisions I make in a baseball game that have anything to do with the outcome.
I would say just one last thing I have is how has your practice plan changed over the years? That's something I feel like you just get better and better and better at over the time.
Yeah, I think, it certainly has changed. I wouldn't say drastically. You pick up things here and there. You go to recruiting events and you talk to people like Coach Carr, and hey, what do you guys do in this situation? How do you guys get to this? And it's a constant learning curve. The one constant that I believe in, and I'm not a micromanager by any means, but in practice, everything is down to the minute. If we're doing a bunt defense and we're doing a first and third defense or something, and we're really good at it, well, we don't cut that time short. If it's a 7-minute segment, then we do the 7 minutes. If we're terrible at it that day and we're throwing it all over the yard, we're not focused, well, we move on. We don't spend the next 10 minutes and then you blow up your practice plan. Now we'll come back to it the next day, which we wouldn't normally do, and we'll get back to that. But we stick to the practice plan. We do defense every day, and we hit every single day. And whether we take ground balls, we're taking fly balls, we use the machine for our outfielders. So there's a lot of different things, again, due to our resources we're able to do. But that's the biggest thing for me in a practice is organization. And then if you take the time to organize it, we post it, everybody knows what's going on, and you stick to it, and then everything just, to me, it flows. And so, I mean, that's how we handle practice.
Yeah, sure. I guess the latest thing I got for you, Coach, I could sit here all day and pick your brain about hitting. What type of approach do you guys, I guess, use, and how exactly do you go about implementing it?
Now you're wanting me to give all of my secrets out to all our opponents, my friend. You and I can have that conversation on a phone one day, or maybe when I'm working for you.
Honestly, find out when you play.
But you know what? I'll tell you, to give you the end, we prepare for each team. Midweek is a little hard because we don't have I've been in the PSAC long enough. There's no secret what we're going to do. There's no secret, with Coach Collins at Bloomsburg and Coach Sheehan at Miller, whether it's, Coach Joe, we all know what each other's going to do throughout with tendencies. So, again, in our preparation, our approach certainly depends on the pitching staff of our opponent. Okay. And, if it's a guy that's, for example, doesn't throw a high percentage of strikes, well, we may not be swinging at the first pitch as often in that regard. So, those are the things and how we prepare. We don't prepare for everyone the same way. So I don't have a generic answer for you. But we do prepare for each conference opponent. And then if we played Lemoyne now for multiple years, and Coach Cassidy runs a heck of a program, and they're really good, and we play them early. So we prepare for them. But there's so many teams you play early in the year that you don't know them, and you don't know the players. So, but I can tell you that we're going to play aggressive. We're going to play aggressive offensively. As many bases as we steal, we want to be a high percentage. And we've got a lot of guys on green light, but if they're getting thrown out, then they lose the green light. So they're picking pitches. They're making decisions based on their scouting report. And so we don't run wild. We'll steal 100 bases, but our percentage, we want our percentage to be that 70% or more. So it's certainly calculated. There's times that our guys don't run, and I leave it on them. And there's times when we, depending on what the numbers say, then we'll be a little bit more aggressive. But overall, that's our approach. Depending on our opponent, our approach will certainly change.
I actually thought of one last thing. I promise that's it.
No, that's good.
Just from the academy standpoint and working with the younger guys, is there anything you see that is lacking, that from someone like myself who feels responsible for the development at the younger age, that isn't as good as it used to be, or that needs to be focused on more at the younger levels?
Well, certainly when I was a younger coach, I spent more time doing the lesson part of it and trying to, do some things. But, as far as being in the academies, other than going and watching different events, it comes down to, just very similar to us. You have a philosophy in hitting. All right. You pick out certain things that you believe in, and that's what you teach. And again, instead of that wide, that wide blanket, you understand what works. And, you focus on, like, if I, in our summer camps, I teach the same exact things to them. If they're 7 years old, 10 years, I'm teaching the same thing, hitting from the bottom up. And, that you certainly, the one thing with young hitters that I don't talk about is trigger. because they don't understand that aspect of it. And then they end up with way too big of their hands going back further, or that, because everyone triggers anyway. So you don't need to you really don't need to pick that aspect out. But it doesn't matter what age group you're working with. If you want them to do something, you coach them, and then they can get there. They may not get there right away, but as again, going back to our summer, if I get the 7-year-old, sometimes 6s, and if they keep coming back, then they come to our winter. And every time I see them, they've developed more. They understand it. And I talk to our hitters a lot about this. They need to know their own swing better than I do. And if they can do that, then they can fix things. And with young hitters, with college, whatever, once they understand cognitively their swing, then they can make the adjustments necessary to be successful.
Good stuff. So, like Jake said, we could go on and on with you. So I don't want to take up too much of your time. I really appreciate it. And I think I think what you said too, that's a great compliment you got, that you're the hardest team to, prepare for. I think that obviously just speaks to yourself and the program you've developed and created. And it's great to be able to pick your brain a little bit and get inside to see what it is that you've done to get there. And, best of luck with everything.
I certainly appreciate it. And, I was fortunate that with Coach Hartman and got to play for Coach Hanna at Delaware, another Hall of Fame guy. And, there's a lot of Virginia Tech, a lot of Delaware, and a lot of things that I along the way, just talking to different people, and obviously not in a podcast because there was no such thing. But, the day I think I've got this thing figured out, I mean, guys that know me know I fish. Well, they'll never see me because I'll be on a stream somewhere, because the day I think I got it figured out, I'm going fishing.
No, appreciate having you.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Thanks for having me.
You on again sometime, just to get into a little bit more about something else maybe.
Anytime, Coach Carr, and don't forget me when you get your big job, dude. All right?
I'll be giving you.
I might be old, but I might be able to be able to figure some things out for you. All right?
Hopefully he's near a little fishing hole for you too.
Yeah, I always find those.
Make sure you have a truck.
Oh, I have that too, so I'm good. I can't throw BP though.
I'll still have it by then.
Yeah. So, all right. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you having me.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks
all right. Yeah. See you.